Ina mana, ina waka, ina reo, ira rangatirama. Kia ora everyone, my name's Kerry Topp and it's a pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to the 4inSights sessions, which are about unlocking the foresight and insight of digital experts to help accelerate Kiwi business leaders' digital aspirations. We hope that's you. So why are we here today? Well, we're here to give you 3 in 10. And what that means is 3 insights and foresights from New Zealand's digital innovation, collaboration, and impact thinkers and deliverers in 10 minutes. So today the format is, you guessed it, 1 thought leader, 3 rounds of questions in 10 minutes flat. So who are we going to hear from today? So we're blessed to have for the 3rd time Bernard Seeto, Head of Digital Strategy at Southern Cross Health Society. Bernard, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Kerry. Good to be here.
Good. Hey, look, this is continuing our narrative and story from the conversation about digital strategy, mystery, thriller, and suspense. We covered that in 1 and 2. We're going into question 1 for this round is the mystery. Look, we've spoken a lot about scenarios, and so what are the characteristics of a scenario, and what are some of the considerations of which scenarios to target for people?
Yeah, Kerry, you've seen this diagram a few times already, guys. The main part I'll talk about is what are the characteristics, technology characteristics in each of these scenarios, and they'll vary. And at a high level, they're about how high parameterization do you have of your products, how much cloud technology are you utilizing, how much APIs are you using, that's application programming interfaces, and how much are you using with regard to third parties to help accelerate you. And they'll vary based on each of these scenarios. So if we look at B3, which is past glories, where typically it's a bricks and mortar type business model and the architecture or the technology hasn't been changed for quite a while, an example of that type of industry would be, say, a casino, which is heavily reliant on tourists, very difficult to change their business model at this point in time or technology. Alternatively, you could be B1, punching above your weight. And this has typically happened as part of COVID, where people are in lockdown and they've had to put a digital facade on their business model to get themselves moving. An example of that will be chemists or pharmacists that had to help people during lockdown. Alternatively, you could B5. B5 are companies that have latent potential or have a business model that's no longer valid. So an example of that will be online travel industry where they've got all the tech, but they don't have a business model anymore and need to look at how they reinvent themselves. And then ultimately, A4, market shaper. People that have the right mix of digital platform business model and technology that are in a totally different position. And this gives you hopefully a better context for what these scenarios represent and how much disruption your organization need to potentially go through to move towards a target position and being realistic about it.
Mm. And I guess a market shaper in New Zealand might be what sort of organisation?
Well, that could be Xero as a really great example. Good call out, Kerry. Yeah, Xero are a really good example of that, where they've really taken the accounting type software world in a bit of a storm, yeah, and doing it globally very well.
Yeah, and look, they're really harnessing the ecosystem, right? And I think that's a quite an interesting play. One of the things for me, 2 examples very quickly, punching above your weight where you were in past glory. First one was my wife works for Augustine, the clothing brand, and very quickly through COVID had to move towards digital platforms enabling the ability to sell. The other one was a fine establishment called Fine Wines, and obviously alcohol purchases. And if you look at their retail store footprint now versus what it was pre and post COVID, now bigger in the warehousing area. So because of online. So some good examples. Okay, question 2. Most companies are not digitally native. How big a challenge is it to become digital, and how big a challenge is it? And a big question.
Yeah, very big question, Kerry. So let's probably start with an analogy from a technology perspective of where we are today. So the way I look at our technology today, for a lot of companies that are not digital native, they are like having still black and white photos. Whereas in the future, it is more about an immersive audio, video, motion, smell, taste, touch type experience coming towards us now. And that is the difference in where the technology is going. And it gives you a sense of the type of change and the complexity of change that will potentially be utilized. So as you can see on the left-hand side, typically the technology is one whole block and we've bolted on digital channels. On the right-hand side, if we look within the company, what we're trying to do now is break that big block up into smaller blocks so that we could utilize those modules for specific changes. And we also wanted to apply AI and machine learning. We want to explore the data, and we also want to make greater use of cloud infrastructure. And that's not all. With the benefit of the cloud, we've got access to a whole bunch of ecosystem-based technologies that could connect up to the organization to help channel different types of experience and information through to the digital channels above. And there are more digital channels than what we had previously because you might have web, mobile app, Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality, home assistance, and what else could be coming into the future. Really important to understand what the technology is that's going to be required to utilize a good market competitive position.
Yeah, and using that example, I guess, of Xero, where, it could have just been an accounting organization setting up its business within TIN, and, in its own organization, inside its own walls. However, it's gone cloud first, can deliver anywhere, and has a significant engagement with its ecosystem to enrich in its products and offerings. So, very relevant in market. So, very good. Right, final question. Question 3. How do I know that I'm heading in the right direction as an executive?
Yeah, another big question, Kerry, and probably the best way to highlight this. In the purple, we've talked about all these different aspects of the last 3 videos. We're not going to go through all of them, but probably the best way to explain this is if you do not have a white X across those, then potentially you have a winning digital strategy.
Yeah.
If we look at, for example, an X in the business strategy saying we don't have it, then what that can lead to is a lot of confusion. How do you prioritize? How do you know you're doing the right things?
Quite
Another one to look at is around, say, ecosystem. If you don't have clarity around the ecosystem, you're potentially going to have not much influence and you're not really in that much of a transformational change. And therefore, it's going to be hard to get the mind share from customers or the wallet share as a result. We've already talked a bit about business models, always something you need to look through, and scenarios. Probably the last one I'll focus on is around technology principles. If you don't have principles in which you're using technology, then it comes down to hippo. It comes down to the highest paid person's opinion, which always makes it quite difficult because as a result of that, you're not clear whether you're making the right decisions for the right reasons. You're doing it because someone has the loudest voice.
Yeah, and I guess observation across many organisations is the voice of hippo, and in absence of a business strategy that is communicated clearly with priorities, I see as being some of the biggest challenges for organisations. So the other side of it is just with ecosystems is really understanding, it's not just your customers, it's actually your stakeholders that you've got in your ecosystem. So fantastic. Hey, Bernard, thank you very much. That's round 3 of the Digital Strategy Mystery Thriller Suspense session. I'd like to thank you very, very much yet again. And if we look to say, well, what do we think we've heard through here? 3 takeaways. You need to appreciate where you fit within the scenarios and honestly assess where you're at. Are you in the bottom left-hand side, aspiring to the top right? I think that you need to show commitment, and commitment is apparent through, action or lack of it. And so too many organizations that we see sort of say, yeah, but when the action's nah. And so that's quite common within organizations. The other side of it is, like, digital transformation, digital change is massive, right? And so it's an ongoing journey. So you need to prepare to be courageous. And it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it, right? Because if everyone's just focused on the profit and loss statement now, then the here and now, no one's skating to where the puck's going to be for future revenue and relevance. And finally, having or knowing what the right ingredients are is key. So is it the business model? Is it your business strategy is clear? Is it that you've got hippo, or you need to reduce the noise of multiple parties with strong voices? Recognize those signals of pain, and again, be honest and lean into those. Well, that's us, everyone.